Hello everyone and welcome to another unit review, and same thing as last time. This time we're only taking a look at her kit. We are not taking a look at a showcase, at least not yet, until Alan decides to stop being a... focus. So today we're going to be taking a look at a 2B. Almost misspoke, almost just, forgot about who I was talking about. 2B. Now, the great thing about the 2B review, unlike the A2 review, is that it is pretty damn easy to just say, guess what, guys? If you're familiar with her, either on JP or on Global, then you're pretty much familiar with her. Her kit has not been changed from the two since they both came out around the same time, or at least there's such minute differences that it really doesn't... nothing stood out to me when I was looking over the kit. So yeah, we're gonna just take a look at both 2Bs, mainly her 7-star kit, but also, just in general thoughts about her. And to start off, let's talk about her TMR. Probably one of the biggest problems that she has. Now, for one thing, it's not true dual hand. For another thing, it's 130 attack with only 20% MP. This is not good at this point in the game, and it is a limiting factor. It could be that we will see some kind of TMR rebalancing in the future. Alum's been kind of quiet recently after it being brought up a little while ago. It could be that this will get buffed. I'm going to try not to make any 2B jokes this time, but no promises. This feels incredibly weak, especially with the damage change to the formula right now. It's so much weaker that it feels like 2B is going to essentially have to just be dual wield to keep her strength up. And, that's kind of okay. If you look at 2B's kit, then you're probably going to be wanting to be chaining, essentially, a lot of the time, and, just double casting her abilities. Dual wield is essentially the way to go. Now, well, we'll leave that for talking about her kit. But, yeah, I'm not a big fan of her, essentially, her very, what I would consider to be limiting TMR. Now, Executioner, her Super Trust Mastery, which is in Materia, 40% attack when equipped with a spear, katana, or sword. And you know what? Essentially kind of just paints her as just being a dual wield unit. If you want to get like an 80% attack materia, then this is pretty nice. It also has a 50% damage to humans and enables access or not to be. Now, that's essentially the attack. It's either a 5.5 times attack to one enemy with, lightning damage, or it casts death at 40%. This ability is so meh. Like, obviously, it's just going to be a bad thing to use in trial, so I just don't think it's very good here, and I'm not a big fan of it. Now, let's talk about her Limit Burst, which has been improved. It can be an actual plus version of it, which becomes an AoE 10 hits, 10 frames, physical 1650%, plus 50% defense ignore, and a self 5-turn 20% damage mitigation, and a self 5-turn plus 1000% to her modifier on self-destruct. I think it's okay. It's the improved version is definitely stronger, and it's 10 hits, but I'll get to the thing that I don't like about it in a second. Stat-wise, extra 65 points on a 205 base for dual wield. Yeah, I think that's pretty nice. I think that's in general pretty nice. HP-wise, she has a good amount of HP that she can put in. She has a decent amount of MP too, and yeah, I think in general just some nice stats all around. A little more where it needs to be, as opposed to A2, which felt, you know, a little lower in some cases for an all-out attack one. Now, in her basic 5 to 6 star kit, I don't think there's anything that really is that interesting. 2B came out a long time ago on the JP side, and that has put her 6 star kit, or well, her up to her max 6 star kit, as just being generally outdated. There's a lot of stuff in her 6 star kit that she has that is better if you use an ability to unlock, which is Pod Charge, 7 MP self, 1 turn plus 20% HP auto revive, which is just generally okay, but it does power up a lot of stuff that does come in her kit regularly. She also has the auto avoid to her, which is, you know, fine. She has the 80% chance to ignore a fatal blow when her HP is above 10%, just like A2. She has extra damage versus machines, which again is good. And just the, you know, extra HP and attack that she gets in her 6 star kit is perfectly fine. But let's get into the interesting stuff, which I believe is her 7 star kit. So equipping her own TMR, which is Virtuous Contract, 30% attack, 30% defense, 100% equip bonus when two-handing. This is her only true dual hand that she has in her kit. And again, with that 130 attack on her TMR, man, does it feel bad. It just feels so bad. With the damage formula, it's going to cap off 2B's damage output considerably, I would imagine, you know, without having testing it, but it is something that just doesn't feel good. The other thing is that to get her 7% MP recovery per turn, you also need her own TMR. So her own TMR is very limiting, and then you need to just consider what to do to improve her. So in theory, I think you could get the new spear from the Lich trial and put it on her with her own TMR, and that would end up balancing out pretty nicely. Still kind of leaves her in a position where she doesn't have an element on her attack, so you need to make a way to get an element. Now, also this enhances her limit burst too, so there are a fair amount of benefits for equipping her own TMR, but her own TMR has just kind of been already pre-nerfed by the damage formula change, so not sure how I feel about that. Actually, I do kind of know how I feel about that. Let's just talk about passive. She has a 20% attack, she has a 40% attack, 40% spirit, 40% MP, 50% extra damage versus machines, and 50% attack when dual wielding. So again, I just feel like 2B is a dual wielder. 20% defense, a 1.5 times limit burst damage. So again, equip her own TMR to get a more powerful limit burst, and then take advantage of that by a 1.5 times mod on her limit burst. Pretty damn good. And 1,000 modifier for things like extract speed, avoid attack, and a couple other things, as well as a self 10% physical damage reduction permanently from the start of battle. Damage reduction's nice. Then we get into her cooldown abilities. The first one right here is probably the one I like the most. Available turn 4 on a 4-turn cooldown. It is a 1500% single target, 16 hit lightning physical attack with a 3-turn debuff to defense on a single enemy, and enables access to some other abilities for a couple of turns. So it's already a pretty high-hitting damage attack, but it also has access to a 2000% 16-hit lightning attack, which is pretty nice if you're double casting that, and a 600% 10-hit attack. So if the enemy's weak to lightning, this is very good news. If the enemy's not weak to lightning, you're in deep shit, because this is one of her most powerful attacks that she has access to, and it is fixed to lightning damage. Next is her 100 MP cooldown ability, available turn 1, 7-turn cooldown, self 5-turn plus 250% to attack and defense, self 5-turn 40% damage reduction, and enables access to a whole bunch of other abilities for 5 turns. Obviously, not longer than her cooldown, same as her other ones, so there are going to be some turns where you're just not going to be able to use her best abilities, which are behind essentially locked walls. And what are those abilities? Well, this one right here. AoE, 9 hit at 1000%, you know, pretty damn strong. That's 3 times for that 1000% AoE attack, and it fills some limit burst gauge. Again, okay. Next one, a 1375% AoE 10 hit attack. 6 self-turn plus 1000% modifier on her other abilities, such as Avoid attack for 6 turns, and a 600% modifier on another ability for multiple turns. Which, you know, Avoid attack is a 900% single target 8 hit. No, she can do some damage. And her last ability, which is right here, is kind of the one that buffs her thunder abilities. So there is a very particular path and pattern to using 2B, which is, you know, essentially unlocking this first, getting her buffs on her, then getting her to debuff the thunder attacks, then using her other cooldown ability so she can have access to her thunder attacks. It feels just a little bit clunky. Even if there are high modifiers on these, building her as a true dual hand just doesn't work because she doesn't have access to, you know, double casting her abilities. So why give her true dual hand anyway is kind of beyond me, even if it is just a slight boost. It just doesn't feel that great. The other problem here is that, you know, there isn't any notes here about her chaining being essentially in major chain families, which essentially means that you need somebody else with 2B 7-star, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And the reason is because Axstar is very popular right now, and this Nier banner hasn't exactly been kind to players, and players haven't exactly reciprocated a feeling of happiness to see the Nier banner come back, because removing those 2 limited time units kind of just deflated it, I think, for a lot of people, and a lot of people are just waiting to see what we get out of the 3rd year anniversary. What are the 3rd year banners? They gotta be better than this, right? Well, we don't know yet, but 2B has the problem where, you know, her limit burst as well as some of her top chaining abilities, they do require the enemy to not be thunder immune, so don't try it against Alexander, trust me. And the other thing is that it just kind of requires another person with 2B. A2, I think, is, you know, nice because she doesn't have elements on a lot of her chaining abilities, which is not limiting, but she has the problem of not being able to put elements on her abilities. This girl, her best abilities are the lightning element, so the enemy is lightning immune. Gonna be difficult. And obviously, fixed dice doesn't work anymore. Sorry, 2B. Your 7-star just came too late. But yeah, in general, I think that 2B is a fine unit if you're starting the game for a while, because she does have just, you know, dual wield in her, even her 6-star form. She has a lot of machine killers, so she can potentially kill some machines, but overall, I would say that A2 is the better unit of the 2 of them. But while both being solid is definitely a strength, right now I would just say that it's not quite enough to be super meta. So that is all for these reviews, and I will see you next time when, should be tomorrow, when we have some brand new news on the JP side. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.